Hi, William. Congratulations, first of all, on your recent promotion.
Thank you very much.
To VP of Sales.
Thank you.
At PDQ Airspares. Tell us a little bit about that and how that came about.
So, obviously I'm very fortunate to be and lucky to be in a position that I am. It's nice to have such a good, strong, stable team around the business. Obviously, I've been in aerospace now for the last 10 years. Last week was my 10th year anniversary in the industry. So it makes me feel a little bit older than I actually am.
Yeah, because I always think like you're the youth in the industry that's coming up through. And I guess maybe people watching this are thinking like you're so young to have got to that stage already. So basically we're just asking, tell us all your secrets. So, well, tell us about how you got to this point, because obviously you're a young face in the aerospace industry, and you've kind of got yourself to a position where actually people are like, whoa, this kid or whatever has got himself to like this level quite quickly. Yeah. And so a lot of what people in the aerospace industry want to know that are ambitious is like, how did you get yourself in that position?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in aviation. So my dad, he worked for British Airways for 30 years.
Okay.
So whenever I was a kid, lucky enough to go and do a little bit of plane spotting and stuff like that. So, I consider myself as a bit of a geek in aviation. I love aircraft. Seeing a plane in the sky. I'd like to test myself sometimes to see how well I can recognise a plane.
Is that Boeing?
Yeah, is that a 777 in the sky, or how many overwing exits does that plane have? But no, I love it, and that's the thing that has always made me really enthusiastic about the industry. So obviously since I was born, my dad was working for BA before, so growing up, we were able to travel a lot using staff travel benefits and stuff, which was amazing. And then when I was 18 at college, I was really into like geography, travel and tourism, which I studied, and learning about different airlines, businesses, anything to do with the travel sector. I was really interested.
Passionate and really on it from the get go. Then
Exactly. And I always knew that working with aircraft was something that I wanted to do. Did
you ever think you were going to be a pilot?
I did.
Yeah?
I did. But to be fair, the cost of the training is
insane.
Yeah. But it's an amazing career to get into. And you get to travel the world and fly aircraft, which would be amazing too. But yeah, the pilot dream was probably started when I was about 12, and then probably ended when I was about 16.
Well, it never has to end.
No, it never has to end. But I do like getting onto a plane, looking left. Sadly, not turning left most of the time, but looking left and seeing into the cockpit door, and seeing all of the switches, the buttons, and everything like that. So yeah. But I like I said, I always wanted to be in aerospace and working with planes. So I first started out, after I left college, I was lucky enough to be offered a position on the British Airways Business and Administration Apprenticeship Scheme. Cool. Which was to anyone that wants to get into apprenticeships. I would obviously recommend. It was a fantastic foundation experience, learning curve, everything. Starting in the industry from such a young age when I was 19, and experiencing different departments like line maintenance, planning, cabin design, operations. It was in engineering, so you're at sort of like the forefront of a big airline. Ever since that, I knew that I wanted to stay in this industry. It was exciting. And the best thing is that you get to meet so many different people.
I think once you're in, you can't really get out.
No, exactly. Yeah, you're trapped. But you get to meet so many different people from all over the world, and that's just something that has always been a passion of mine.
It is amazing. Yeah. Like the community that's in aerospace is so wonderful.
Absolutely.
Always really welcome. Like people from just all walks of life. It's just really fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, and everyone shares the same sort of vision. Everyone's really excited about aviation and what the future holds, and what the changes are going to be made. What that's going to look like in 5-10 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's like so much regulatory hoops to jump through. It's like, okay, what's this gonna be like with the electrification of aircraft and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. It's like that conversation's getting interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to see what for you and I aviation will look like in 10 years time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think it will be completely different because if you were to think back 10 years ago, you know, aviation back then was different as well.
Oh yeah.
But with like new aircraft types coming in, you've got like new engines being made for these massive aircraft.
I would love to get super technical and be like, tell me more.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll save this for.
We'll save that for another day. Yeah.
Yeah, you can share a bit of super technical stuff maybe another day.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of like where I started to where I am now, I think working for an airline, you know, gave me a massive amount of knowledge and experience. And the one thing that BA presented was, because you're in such a big organisation and you meet so many different people, everyone has different experiences, different, you know, suggestions on way to approach things. You sometimes get thrown in the deep end and think, right, this is now your responsibility to sort out, or you need to go and talk to this person in a different department, you know, and that sort of set a precedence, you know, for me as an individual, because, you know, you couldn't really shy away from the fact that if you needed something doing, you had to go and speak to someone about it. And, you know, speaking to people, asking questions is the best way to learn. And I love talking to people. Obviously we're on this podcast now, it's great, we're talking to each other, so
yeah.
Why not?
Well, I guess this is one of the reasons I did the podcast and why I'm in recruitment is just I love learning like those little things about aviation, but I absolutely love people. Like I can't get enough of talking to people about what they do. So yeah, one of the main drivers for this podcast is the same reason you're in aviation and doing what you're doing for PDQ, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's been some exciting stuff coming out of PDQ recently. Tell us what's been changing there.
So so when I first started, I joined in 2017. And
so a long time ago.
So a long time, yeah, 5.5 years ago now.
Nice.
And PDQ to where we are now is different, but in a really exciting way as well. Nick, Chris, and Claire were the previous owners, and the business was sold to a company called Audax, which is a private equity firm.
Nice.
And we have a mother company now within the group, which is called FDH Aerospace, that own other companies within the aftermarket sector. There are some OEM companies, there are some defence companies, and there's some commercial aftermarket companies, which is PDQ.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. So we have, you know, we've really like expanded and set really sort of a precedence in the marketplace at the moment. And you know, I think the future of where the business is going to go and you know, the group of companies combined is really, really exciting. It's great to be a part of it. And for someone like me, you know, I love making a suggestion or a recommendation about how to do things. You know, I really want to try and make an impact.
You can like, implement change and like improve policies and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice to be able to make a difference in a business.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, being part of it is amazing. It's exciting, and yeah, I mean, the up and coming MRO. You know, I think most people will be able to see what we're really about.
I love your stands. Are they still going to be?
So this year's stand, I don't want to share any secrets at the moment.
Well,
it's going to be exciting. Definitely. You heard it here first.
Oh wow, exclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So with PDQ then, so you work for
British Airways. Before, yeah.
Go straight to PDQ.
Yes. Yeah. So I did 5 years at BA, and then. So my career at BA it sort of started 2 years in the apprenticeship scheme. I did a year and a half in the warranty department, so submitting claims for defective components. You know, working in the warranty team gave me a great knowledge of like how components work, how they interlink with other bits and pieces on the aircraft, and ultimately talking to like external companies, suppliers, and other people. You know, really gave me a good knowledge about how that sort of the side of the industry works. And then after the warranty, I then thought I don't want to be claiming money back from airlines. I want to be, you know, being able to sell a service, you know, and really being someone that can, you know, implement different.
You're a real people
things.
person as well,
Yeah.
so like having that connection and chatting
Yeah.
to new customers must really drive you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I said earlier, you know, I just like talking to people, and you know, having a position to be able to do that is amazing. So I then started working in the customer material group. It was called like the CMG,
Okay.
and that was responsible for like selling BA's excess inventory, surplus stocks, so stuff that they had bought for a maintenance check or you know, like an urgent requirement, and then they never ended up using. Then if there wasn't a requirement for that part again, that would then be considered a surplus item, and then that would be sort of an indication for me to say, hey, who wants to buy it, you know, and looking at the market value, all of the traceability, the paperwork, and there's a lot of different aspects associated to that, but then ultimately, you know, dealing with external suppliers to see if we can find opportunities. So I did that for 2 years. And then, you know, that also gave me a chance to attend some of the conferences, like the big MRO shows, the IATP, the European Airline Loan and Borrow Forum.
Just loved the travelling.
Yeah,
the shows.
exactly. And obviously working for the airline, you know, BA's network, you could pretty much fly anywhere. So it was always an exciting time. And then, you know, I wanted more of it. And BA, obviously being the airline, the main reason why they're in business is to fly passengers all over the world. But I really wanted to get into the aftermarket industry, and an opportunity arose at PDQ. Nick approached me, and Paul, you know, they said, you know, here's an opportunity, are you interested? I said absolutely, and then that was it.
The rest was history.
The rest was history, exactly, yeah. So since 2017, I started off as a regional sales manager, looking after pretty much Europe, and then you know, flying to France, Spain, Scandinavia, and places like that, meeting customers, airlines, maintenance repair organisations, and then I think about a year in, I was then given the Middle East region.
Yeah, wow. So that must have been like even more fun.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
Your thirst for travel.
Yeah, for sure. And going that bit of you know, outside of Europe, understanding a different culture, working with different people, you know, that was awesome as well. Yeah,
that must have been fascinating. I do bits and bobs, so I help source people all over the world. I mainly technical sales.
Right.
Because if a UK company wants representation in the Middle East or you know, in America, that's really, really our bag. We do loads of other stuff, but I find it really, really interesting, like when someone's new to it, how steep the learning curve is.
Right.
So the value in like being able to have built that with PDQ, that must have been so great.
Yeah, and you know, I was so lucky to have that position, you know, and I think PDQ's mentality was always, you know, go and see a customer, build the relationship, you know, and that's the sort of the DNA.
You know, show them that you care.
Yeah, exactly, and that's such a big part of us as the industry. And you know, like I said earlier, you know, I love going to see people and talking to people and understanding a different language, trying to understand a different language. You know, I can just about order a cup of coffee in Spanish. Ooh. And that's about it.
Watch out, guys.
Yeah. Something I wish I paid more attention of in school, I'll tell you that. But,
yeah, right.
But yeah, you know, things like that was amazing. And you know, you get to meet people, you get to build relationships, you know. And if I wanted to take my wife to Barcelona, for example, you know, I could call up one of my contacts there and say, hey, have you got any recommendations for a place to eat or something to go and see, you know, and that's part of the network, you know, and part of why the industry is great. And
that is why I love aerospace.
Yeah.
You've summed it up, really. It's just such a community. And you know, I walk around my office and that feels like a lovely community. But there's something so special about the aerospace community because it's just so international, that working as part of it is definitely, I would definitely recommend to anyone at school or, you know, college that wants to go into an exciting industry to do that.
And that's the thing, you know, when sort of I was growing up, obviously I have a circle of friends, and you know, sometimes they were stuck with, you know, what do I want to do in 5 years' time, or where do I want to be, or what kind of industry do I want to work in, And you know, for me, luckily, I love planes. You know, so it was an obvious
Easy
decision
peasy.
for me.
I've got a question. Where do
yeah.
you want to be in 5 years?
Definitely still within aerospace.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the transition of like PDQ and FDH and the companies
That's going to be
combined,
exciting.
yeah, it's going to be really
super
exciting. So in 5 years' time, I still want to be a part of that, definitely.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the sky's the limit. You know, there's opportunities to change things. There's opportunities to try new things. You know, and just the dynamics of the company and the industry as a whole, you know, presents so many different opportunities. So you never know what's around the corner, but I know that the industry is, for me, and like you say, once you get into it, there's no getting out.
And also, like, we've got through COVID.
Yeah.
And there were no planes in the sky.
No.
During COVID. And so, well, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that was probably one of the most brutal experiences
Mm-hmm.
that the aerospace industry could have taken.
Yeah.
And so now coming out of COVID, I feel like as an industry and a community, we're unstoppable. But you know, you never know what might happen.
No, exactly. And I think before COVID, the aerospace industry was definitely increasing. You know, you look at all of these different airlines that are placing big orders for new aircraft. You know, the older the plane, the more maintenance it requires. So if you buy new, it's like buying a new car. You know, you don't have to get it MOT'd for the first 3 years. I'm not sure that's the case with aerospace. You still have to get it maintained, but the likelihood of parts failing is going to be a lot less.
Absolutely.
And there's new technologies now that makes parts more reliable.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why the investment's there. And the environmental aspect, you know, you see planes now
That's
with
a big piece. Sustainability. They're all over it.
Exactly. And as a supplier and as a communities, you know, I think I speak on behalf of most suppliers out there, is that everyone wants to do more for the environment and sustainability, like you say. But you know, there's a reason why planes now have the sharklets at the end of the wings to make it more aerodynamic. There's new engines that are coming out because they're more fuel efficient, so you use less carbon and stuff like that. And you know, those are the kind of things 10 years ago in the industry that it just wasn't there.
And they weren't thinking about it.
No.
I think the real shift we have with airlines now is that they have taken note of what people have been saying, of like, actually, we do care about our environment.
Yeah.
And so the airlines have now got to a point, and they've really taken note.
Yeah,
And
I think there was a test flight, I can't remember the airline, but there was a test flight where they were trying a new type of fuel.
I love your knowledge.
Yeah, I've got plenty of weird and strange facts, but yeah, there's things like that that are really trying to change aerospace. And in 10 years' time, you know, I think kerosene is the fuel that gets used on aircraft, but it might not be kerosene in 5 years' time. It might be something else. You know, cooking oil, like McDonald's trucks are powered from
bio-oil.
Bio-oil, exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting because you just don't know. Like, before Elon Musk came along, no one imagined that everyone would be taking electric cars really seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it just takes a bit of innovation in aerospace for everyone to all of a sudden go, we've done it.
Yeah.
We've enabled the electrification of aircraft or whatever. You know, I dare to dream, but you know, as an industry, it's exciting to see what's ahead, but also what traditions from the industry we can like keep and take forward. Like obviously your parents have a history in aerospace, so you know all the history as well, and it's quite a rich history.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and having that, like you say, innovation will change. You know, when I was at BA, I don't know if you remember an advert which was on TV, but it was purely around like the innovation of BA, because BA were the first airline to introduce a flatbed into aerospace for business class.
Okay, yeah, very cool.
So,
well done, BA.
Yeah.
I don't get to fly on a BA flatbed.
No.
But well done.
Yeah. But that changed, you know, what other airlines did, and pretty much every long haul carrier now has a flatbed within their business class cabins. You know, and then some are going to better levels than that to introduce a better quality of service. And
I love looking at those videos on LinkedIn of like even just the concepts that some engineers come up with of like what the inside of an aircraft could be, and taking like the luxury of what it used to be, and the extra space and all of that. It then over the years has changed to like getting more people in, and now the first class and business class has just taken on a life of its own, and like engineers like are great with ideas of like
Yeah.
different things they can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got to say, Emirates are pretty far ahead in
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
of what
yeah,
they do.
yeah, and of course,
There's loads of great.
as well, yeah. There's great, and I think there's one thing that I sort of try to understand more and more is, you know, I consider sometimes the aerospace as like a football team. Sometimes, you know, football teams bring in a lot of youth through the system, and they give opportunities to young people to change the dynamics of a team. So why can't you use that aspect in different industries or different companies? And
I love that.
Yeah, the innovation and the change and the you know, sort of the projections into the future really come from young people or a modern mindset, and that's what makes things really exciting.
That's what you bring as well. Like, considering that you've come up so quickly within the aerospace industry, I feel like they've really embraced your ideas at PDQ, and you know they're excited to have you there as well, which is nice as a younger person coming up through aviation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think
I don't know. I don't know. We're about the same age. I'm thinking I'm really old, but
I feel older some days, but especially after a long business trip. But yeah, I you know, it's great to have that sort of you know, culture that's embedded now, and there's a lot more young people in aviation coming up through the ranks, and you know, that's the way forward, really, to bring new ideas, to suggest new things, and you know, to really be a part of it. But I was trying to use that like sort of football analogy, and it's like, well, you have that youth there, and you have someone that's quick, efficient, you know, that's willing to run as far as they possibly can, you know, to get to that next level, and you know, that's.
And people want to let them try.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them give it a go and learn and grow and develop. Exactly. And I guess really then, as a hiring manager as well, what could someone, like, let's say they're in the youth team, or let's say they've just got their first job in aerospace, but they want to progress quickly.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to that young person that wants to progress?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously you don't want to run before you can walk, and you don't.
I bet they love hearing that.
But you want to have, you know, the understanding of the different departments, how things sort of operate. You know, one thing that I always try and keep in the back of my head, that if someone asks me a question, or a superior of mine asks me a question to say, hey,
like
what's going on?
Or...
what's going on with this project? As long as I can answer it, you know, for me, I'm doing my job. You know, I know what's going on, I know the updates, and you know, you really want to try and show and prove that you're able to, you know, have an impact, or to be able to follow through with the program. Exactly. Yeah, you want to make sure that you're on your stuff. And then one thing when I was at BA, which, you know, they were fantastic for, and having that sort of like intercompany training, but having like a succession plan where you as an individual can almost go to a superior and say, look, you know, I'm hungry to progress. I want to see where I can go now. I want to put together maybe a succession plan for myself, and to say, these are sort of the milestones that I need to accomplish before I get to there. And once I get to there, you know, is that going to be enough for me to move to that next level?
I love that.
So yeah, I think that's...
Create your own structure.
Yeah,
like,
exactly, yeah.
Speak to your superiors and your mentors, and ask those questions. Like, make yourself known. I think actually in a business you can just sit there and do your job, and people recognise you're doing your job amazingly well.
Yeah.
But they don't make themselves known. I'm hungry, I'm motivated, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And how do I get there? Help me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such an important aspect of it. And you know, if someone comes with a suggestion to say, you know, I want to try this, and in the back of your head you think, is that really a good idea? But you know, there's ways to like build on it, you know, and make it even better.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, if you don't make a mistake, you'll never learn. And you know, I almost encourage mistakes to be made sometimes, because you know that if something does happen, you can build from it, or you can change something, or...
Yeah, absolutely. Like having the right protocols in place, obviously, to, you know, make sure you're giving a good service. But then allowing, exactly, when you are young, having an environment where it's not, you know, you're not out the door. Like, you want to create a nice environment for people coming up through. And I would say to employers at the moment who want that young talent. Like, they want that young, ambitious, driven people that want to gain experience. I would say, just, these people are hungry, and there's a lot of opportunity in aerospace at the moment. So if you want to create your brand, like your employer brand, to attract that kind of talent, then you've got to offer those those growth opportunities, like PDQ did with you, when you joined in 2017.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And like I say, I've been so lucky to be able to have or work for a company that has given me the platform to be able to do that. And I've had the people around me to support me, and that means a lot to me personally. But at the same time, I obviously hard work does come into it.
Absolutely. I know that Paul. I know that Paul will probably watch this, and he doesn't suffer any fools, does he?
No, absolutely. But it's great to have Paul by my side, and to be able to do, the things that I want to be able to do.
You're lucky, you're so lucky to have had a mentor like that in the industry. And actually, one thing, and I am a recruiter, so people think we're vampires. People do think we're vampires, but my advice is, if you've got a good thing going, don't necessarily think the grass is greener.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I would like to think the reputation I build within the industry is one of, if you've got a good thing going, I'd like to say, it's good to stay where you are, because I want to give people the best possible opportunities for them. I do actually care. And so with businesses, you've got to where you are by being loyal to an employer for a long period of time. And I would definitely recommend that. It's probably a bit counterproductive because I am a recruiter, but it just goes a really long way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, every day is not the best day it could ever possibly be, and some weeks or are worse than others.
Absolutely.
You've got to think long term, where do I want to be, and how am I going to get there? So that's the important aspect of it as well. But
ever be an Aerofest again?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or are we leaving it to Ian Thompson?
Yeah. That is also a good question. I don't know whether or not the baton will be passed over soon, but I think you're not the first person to say Aerofest needs to be brought back, and I'm all for it. Fantastic weekend.
Do you still have the field?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. You can sit whenever we go to the office. It's there in the background, and all of the good memories. You can see out onto the field and think what a great time it was, and it still is, and that's one of the really good things about PDQ. Because you recognise PDQ through Aerofest, and of course all of the other sponsors that were a part of it. It was a great weekend.
It really, really was. So I think someone needs to. So I think I've got a few people that I might know that would want to pull something together. But Aerofest, maybe not.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Are you at the MRO party?
We are. Yeah.
Are you one of the sponsors?
We are one of the sponsors. Yeah.
Capilaux are also one of the sponsors.
Great.
Should be a really great event. I think. Is it something like 650 people?
Yeah, I think it might be even more than that now. But
so I guess shout out to Sarah Goodwin and Ian for pulling that together.
Yeah.
It's they've been on a real roller coaster
definitely,
in terms of the hunger for those kind of networking events.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think that the AMG, really, there's been previous years since I've been going to the shows, there's been a lot of companies that would maybe go off and do different
bits and
entertainments, hospitality and things like that. And it's great to now have something really where you can combine all of that into one and have everyone under the same roof, And I remember when you and I were in Dubai together, and that was sort of the first major event.
Yeah.
I think for the AMG.
Oh, yeah, because I was like, of course, Ian, I want to sponsor you. Because I want an invite to your party. Because I didn't feel cool enough. As an outsider, if you do recruitment, it's kind of like you're not necessarily in with the cool kids. But Ian, the reason he started the AMG was when he was younger, he used to go to these shows on his own. And he wanted to bring people together so that if you are travelling on your own, you can pop a note in the group and say, is anyone in Istanbul? Or is anyone in Africa this week.
Yeah.
And if they were, you could catch a drink.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah.
How great is that for a young person? You know, starting their career in aviation.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's a great way to meet so many people under one roof. You know, and you know the A&G does exactly what it says on the tin. You know, the network group is there.
Aviation Network Group.
Yeah.
So we'll put a link in. Oh wow. We'll put a link in the comments to Ian's profile.
Definitely, yeah.
You could just add Ian, or we'll put a link so that you can kind of check out the Aviation Network Group. And we'll put some details of like PDQ and stuff all in the comments so that people can find out a bit more about what you do or what PDQ does.
Look forward to reading the comments.
Oh, wow. Wow. Be careful what you wish for. I can think of a few people that will try and have a bit of fun, but you know.
Oh, there's many.
Is there anything, like we've had a real great discussion, like I feel like you've come on and just been so easy to talk to. It's been really, really nice. So thanks so much for coming on, you know, the show or whatever this is. All I want to do is just chat to people about what they do and like some cool industry stuff. So you've been a real treat to have on the show.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And is there anything you want to say or any topic you want to talk about now?
Yeah, I mean
before we wrap it up. We've talked for so long.
I know. I think you know, in terms of the reason why we're here, you know, is to talk about how people can either get into the industry or they might want to change to be a different aspect of the industry, or progress further where they currently are. You know, and I think for me, it's like just don't be shy to ask questions. You know, I think that's always like really been beneficial for me.
That's how we learn.
And that's how you learn, exactly. And you know, just put your name out there, try and meet as many people as you possibly can, and you know, the part of aviation is that it is, if you were to think of other industries, the aftermarket sector or the airlines and MROs and the people that really work in that industry, it is quite small sometimes when you think about it, because it is a small world and people do move from place to place and you can reconnect with people, but that's a good thing. But you know, everyone's there for the same reason, you know, and
they're filled with passion for aviation.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's really there for a paycheck. Like if you want a paycheck, you just go to work somewhere else.
Yeah.
It'd be an easier life.
Like in finance.
Yeah.
Like that.
Exactly. But with aviation, people love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is really, really lovely.
Yeah, there's a lot of passion and it's great to be a part of it. So.
Amazing. Well, I feel like that's a perfect moment to finish.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been so much fun.
Absolutely.
And I'll see you at the MRI pie.
Looking forward to it. Come by the stand.
Yeah.